The night I almost quit on God wasn't loud. No storm, no thunder, no lightning tearing the sky apart. Just quiet. A heavy kind of quiet that doesn't comfort, it confronts. The kind that forces you to face everything you've been running from. The church was empty. The air still smelled like coffee and candle wax. The lights above me flickered, humming softly like they too were tired. And for the first time in 15 years of ministry, I didn't feel like a pastor. I felt like a man God had stopped talking to. I'd just finished another live stream sermon, the kind people liked but didn't live. Thousands of views, hundreds of comments. Yet as the numbers rolled on screen, all I could think was, why do I feel so far from the God I preach about? When the camera light turned red, I smiled. When it turned off, I broke. Bills were overdue. The team was exhausted. My wife barely looked at me anymore, not because she didn't love me, but because she didn't recognize me. I had become a brand, a voice, a projection of faith without the pulse of it. So that night, I stayed behind. Everyone left. Lights off, stage empty, chairs stacked. Only I remained, sitting on the floor of the sanctuary, phone face down, laptop closed, heart undone. And I whispered into the stillness, God, I can't do this anymore. No answer, no warmth, just the sound of my own breathing, shallow, uneven, bouncing off the walls. I'd prayed for breakthroughs, for revival, for numbers, but what I needed was none of that. I needed God to be real again. I closed my eyes and saw flashes of where it began. The first sermon I ever preached, in a borrowed building, to 9 people and a dog that wouldn't stop barking. Back then, I didn't care about cameras or reach. I cared about presence, His presence. Now I had everything I'd once prayed for. Followers, influence, stability. And yet, somehow, I had less of Him. I leaned back against the wall, eyes burning, heart trembling. The silence felt like punishment, like heaven was closed for renovation and I was the mess in the lobby. And then, in that deep, unbearable stillness, came something different. Not sound, not vision, but memory. I remembered my mother's prayers when I was a boy, the way she whispered to God as if He was in the room. I remembered the morning she died, how the hospital beeped and blinked, and how even in that chaos, I felt peace. That same peace brushed against my heart. It wasn't a voice, it was a nearness. A holy quiet that said more than sermons ever could. I stayed there for what felt like hours. No music, no noise, just breath. Mine, and somehow His. And in that silence, God began to rebuild me. Not as a pastor, not as a preacher, as a son. Days passed, and the silence followed me like a shadow. At first, I feared it. Then I began to understand. Silence wasn't absence. It was alignment. When God goes quiet, He's not ignoring you. He's untangling the noise you've mistaken for His voice. I started to listen. Not for thunder, not for answers, but for Him. I listened in the sound of my wife's laughter one morning over burnt toast, in the quiet rustle of my son's notebook as he drew a picture of us holding hands, in the wind outside the window that made the old church sign creak, as if creation itself was breathing His name. And then one morning, during prayer, I opened my Bible to Proverbs 27:27-28. The one who has knowledge uses words with restraint, and whoever has understanding is even-tempered. Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent. I read it 3 times, then whispered, So you're not silent to punish me. You're teaching me to listen. The next Sunday I preached with no notes, no outline. I told them the truth, that I almost quit, that I'd been empty, that silence scared me. And the church went still. Nobody clapped, nobody shouted. People just cried. Because finally, it wasn't performance, it was presence. After the service, a young woman came forward, trembling. She said, "Pastor, I've been begging God to speak to me, but today, in your silence, He did." That moment broke me, in the best way. I realized God's silence isn't the end of the conversation, it's the pause before revelation. Weeks turned into months. I stopped trying to prove my worth through work. I stopped filling every pause with plans. Instead, I started living slower, walking, journaling, listening. The finances didn't magically fix. The world didn't suddenly get easy. But my soul, for the first time in years, rested. One night, I went back to that same sanctuary, the same chair, the same silence. But this time, it didn't feel like a void. It felt like a home. I whispered again, "God, I'm still here." And I swear I felt Him smile. Because that's the thing about silence. When it's holy, it heals what noise never could. It teaches you that God doesn't need to shout to be strong. That peace doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just rests. That you can be losing everything the world calls success and still be winning the war for your soul. Now, every time life grows loud, when the numbers dip, when the comments turn cruel, when the camera light blinks red, I remember that night, and I thank Him for the quiet that saved me. If this story found you tonight, subscribe and stay with us. Every day we share stories of faith, finances, and wisdom from Proverbs. And if you've ever almost quit but stayed, leave a blue heart in the comments. Even in silence, God still speaks. You just spent 8 minutes for God. 8 minutes to grow in wisdom, faith, and peace. See you tomorrow. Verse for meditation. Proverbs 27:27-28. The one who has knowledge uses words with restraint, and whoever has understanding is even-tempered. Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent.